I can edit this too, so it doesn't, like, if we mess up or whatever, I can edit it out. Okay. So when I watched your class earlier today, you were talking about mean, median, and mode, and you were having the students use their own quiz grades and set it up and find the mean, median, mode. And since you're the science teacher and I'm the math teacher, they haven't learned that skill in math yet. So you were basically previewing that for me, which is great. So one thing that I noticed is that the students were interested in it because it was their own scores. So that was really awesome that you used something that was relevant to them. Something that I saw, because I was kind of more in the back, was some of the students got a little lost at times, but then they would get caught back up. So that's just kind of an overview on what I noticed in the lesson. I thought it was super awesome because, again, when they get to me, they're going to be more proficient with mean, median, and mode. So I like that you're making it cross-curricular. So I just have a few questions to kind of just debrief from the lesson. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst lesson you taught and 10 being the best, how would you rank that lesson?
Good question. I would say it's around, 6, 7-ish.
Okay.
There's room for improvement.
Good. Okay. That's kind of why we're here. So what were you pleased about during the lesson? Like, what went well?
The kids are really engaged because, like you said, it's real data. You know, we talk in science about data all the time. In math, they learn the skills in math, but they don't really translate where they use it all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's really authentic, the numbers, and then they really get to compare themselves to their peers in that class. I also share the class, the means against other classes, so it kind of sets up a somewhat competitive situation, culture, and I see a lot of kids get engaged in it because they, want to know. And they can also see, I have a grid with all the test scores and randomly. Mm-hmm. So they know when they get that, their score is on there, but you don't know exactly. Yeah. So it really makes them, I see a lot of kids, someone be nervous, but they're engaged in it, and it means they care. That's how I kind of see it.
Yeah. Do you do this with every quiz?
Typically tests, yes.
Okay, so you just took the test.
And this is a larger quiz, so I did it this time because of it.
Okay, cool. What do you notice about the kids who get the lowest? You include all of their tests. So what do you kind of hone in on the kids who get the lowest score to see what they do?
On the end of it, I have a reflection.
Okay.
So, we talk about central tendency of the average and the middle. And from there, I tell them you got to look at once you get their scores, is their ticket to get their test grade. Mm-hmm. And so once they see that, they have to write. Well, let me back up. Beforehand, they have to write how they think they did.
Okay, so they don't know if they're the lowest.
They don't know, and I don't have it on Canvas.
I wondered
they have no idea.
Okay.
So it's really reflective how they think they did. And I said, you can actually guess one of those numbers if you want. Mm-hmm. But don't just guess the number. They have to write sentence. Like, I thought I did well because I was comfortable with the questions or whatever. And then, though, after they get it, now the next question, hold on. Next question is, what did you do to prepare yourself? And so some kids say, I didn't prepare at all, but I paid attention in class. And if they do well on that over time, it's working for them. Yeah. Could they get better if they make a 95? Could they get 100 because they have good aptitude? And the answer is yes. So it's a really reflective piece. And then some of the kids that make hundreds, I'll ask them, what do you do? Mm-hmm. What'd you do to prepare? So then all the kids can hear this stuff and positive traits that these kids that perform do. So my idea is hopefully they can pick up saying, okay, that kid does flashcards or whatever strategy.
It's almost like positive peer pressure.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
That's cool.
I've never had any issues with kids getting the low. Okay. Like if the class is really bad, I won't include it. I'll probably retest before I drop that.
Yeah.
but I've never had issues with it.
That's cool. So what would you have done to change the lesson to get it closer to a 10?
Okay, good question. Typically, I just jump into it.
Mm.
And I think in years past, the math curriculum had it earlier in the year. And now I just start doing it and I just jump into it. And there's big number sets.
Mm.
You know, if there's 34 kids in a class, it's a
It's a
lot.
lot
It's
of
pretty
data.
overwhelming, yeah. So the kids, it takes them maybe 2 to 3 to 4 really tests to get moving with it. And by the end of the year, they can do it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of practice, and I haven't really spent the time.
Okay.
So I would probably break it down to really do simple examples first,
Okay.
before I really drop the big number sets.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if you have a lower class, I could see how it would
Yes,
like overwhelming. You're like,
it's-
oh my gosh,
yeah.
it's like 30 numbers. What am I doing with those? So, what would your students be doing differently if your class was at a 10? So, like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say they'd be more doing examples where I could see that they get it first
Okay.
before we get to the big stuff. And in the past, the first 1 to 3 sessions, I just grade as a participation.
Okay.
I haven't graded for accuracy just because, and I'll get some kids and I'll look at them and they don't get it yet, or
Yeah.
they ran out of time or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
more been kind of rushed. Where at the end, I want to grade it for accuracy because it is meaningful. It's a good math and science connection.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes spending more time doing more examples first. Awesome. Okay. So tell me more about what that would look like. So if you could change, so would you spend more time, maybe 2 days on this, or how would you change it to where the students are doing what you want them to be doing in an ideal 10 situation?
I think I could do it in a day, but it'd probably be homework involved.
Okay.
2 days maybe at the most. But again, I don't have the testing now, so I can spend 2 days if I have to. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely, yeah. So low.
It's good math science connection. To make it a 10 though, again, I would have them practice more and then actually, and then we're in a trailer situation, so it's hard to get feedback and move around the class efficiently. So that's kind of a challenge.
Okay.
But they need to be doing a couple examples first, just like in a math class, before they do the bigger
like a big
time.
grade or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
It's like doing story problems first before you even practice the rote
skill.
stuff. Yeah, the
Yeah.
skill.
That makes sense. So I think that the question says, do you want that to be your goal? And I think that we can kind of make that a goal that you can set for yourself, and that we can kind of work through together, is checking student understanding before moving on to something that's graded. So something that's kind of more low risk, some examples.
Sure.
And giving feedback on those, because you said moving around is difficult. So we're trying to come up with a way where you can give feedback quickly, so that you don't have to spend 2 days on the assignment. So before I kind of ask the rest of these questions about the observation, I have thought about, just from what I saw in your classroom, I did think about a tool that you could use, and it's called Plickers, and I can send more information, but I have the cards here. But so basically, these cards are set up to where you assign them to a student, and then so each student has their own numbered card. So all the cards are numbered, and you can go on the website and set up your own questions. So you were saying, practice with smaller examples. You could go on and type in a question: what is the mean of this data set? And list those numbers. And the students would have these cards. They could do the work, and then they hold up the card. The technology piece would be, you'd have to use, and you can borrow my iPad or your own phone, and you would scan the whole room. So you get like instant feedback, like Bobby got it right, Susie didn't. And if you put specific answer choices in. Like say you ask for the mean, then you would put the mean in as the correct answer choice, and then the median as an incorrect mode, and so on, so that you can say, okay, if you chose this answer, then you looked for the mode. And the mode is the most often. So the kids are getting instant feedback, oh, I got that wrong because I mixed up the definition. And you don't really have to move around so much for this.
Okay.
The
That
kids,
sounds very interesting.
yeah, the kids, and I've used, and since we're both on the same team, the kids are familiar with these.
Okay.
So, it's something that we can look into more. But I noticed just in my own classroom when I've used these, they tend to pick up things more often because I'm able to give them such immediate. You pick this answer choice, you added wrong or something like that.
Can you set it up where they do like an open response on that? Just a number?
See, that's the only like downside about them is that they're only multiple choice. There are different tools that we can look into if you wanted to do like we can look into Canvas and things like that about if you want an open-ended response.
Okay.
And I also know that you like to use Nearpod. There's a way you can kind of get feedback in Nearpod pretty quickly too. So we can look at those as well. But if you're doing like just number things, then that's a good resource. So I think we set your goal, getting student feedback. So if you hit this goal or if you could achieve this goal, does that matter to you? Like how important is that to you?
Well, at the end of the day, they need to be independent in doing it. And historically, it takes me 5 or 6 times where when they get their quiz back or test, I have that sheet, not when they get it back, when we have one, I do all the numbers and I hand it to them and they could get it down within 10 minutes. Yeah. And then I hand back, that's like their ticket to get their grade back.
Yeah,
boom, boom, boom.
It's like almost a ticket out in the door instead of taking the whole class period.
So in the past, when they really get it, we're looking at 15 minutes to do the data, really reflect on what they did, and then hand back tests or quizzes. And it's like, wow, now we're at probably 2 days. Yeah. Like I didn't even finish today. And they still don't know the concept, and are comfortable with it yet. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. So what was the question?
So you answered, how does it matter to you that they meet this goal so that they become more efficient?
Sure. Yeah, and I used to, when I started, I would time them. I would do it myself. And literally right there, do the key and put a timer. And then they'd have to write their time down. And I'd give them like 12 minutes to start. Yeah. And half the class wouldn't finish. Okay. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. Come on. So that's and then I would put mine, up there. And then it literally went every time we did it down to almost 5 minutes, everybody.
And you let them use a calculator, right? Yeah. See, that's like one difference is to start out with that I don't. Okay. But then once they show me that they can do it, then they get to use the calculator. But yeah, so that makes it more efficient. I like that I always tell them, it took me, 5 minutes to do this. I multiply that by 5 and I expect you to be able to do it in 25 minutes. Now that's from like my on-level classes. For my advanced level classes, it's about like 2 to 3 minutes. So that's kind of always mine, but it would be nice if they could be just as quick, and that means they're comfortable.
I used to double what I would think that I could do.
Yeah. It wasn't enough. Yeah. So, what do you want your next steps to be to kind of help you reach this goal?
So you would have to show me the clickers.
Okay, so you want to use these?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be good. Maybe I could. You could show me and then maybe observe you. Okay. In action.
Yeah.
Just to look at the logistics of it.
Yeah. So then we talked about we can use this tool. Let's go ahead and set up a date. So looking at maybe like this week or next week, are you covering any concepts that you could use just like straight numbers for, or like multiple choice questions for?
So I'm doing comets, asteroids, and meteoroids. Is the standard, and it's pretty knowledge based. So type of, questions in that.
Okay.
So those would be good. The really standard says what's the difference between them, compare, contrast.
Okay.
So historically, the questions are very rote type of memory stuff.
Okay.
So I think that would be efficient for that.
Okay, awesome.
And it shouldn't take that long,
Yeah.
maybe 2 days or so.
Yeah, so I'm using clickers this week, I think Thursday. So if you want to, you can just like kind of peek in and you can kind of see them in action. And then I can sit down with you maybe during Friday during our team meeting and get you set up with the class. It takes about 15 minutes to get it kind of set up to get all your students entered, but I can show you some tricks. And then maybe one day next week I can just come in, I can let you borrow the cards and go from there.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.